and welcome back to Cardboard Swords and another instalment of Fab for Less. It's the final instalment of our Bright Lights Battlebox series, and this week we've got Chris Chalk's £5 Dash database list. Let's get in! A £5 deck tech in 5 minutes. Start the clock and go!
Thanks for the challenge, Rob. Dash Database is a new mechologist hero with 18 health and 4 intellect, and has 2 key effects. To begin, she gives you the ability to look at the top card of your deck at any point in the game. This gives you perfect knowledge about that top card, which is imperative for her second effect, which allows you to once per turn play a mechologist item with cost 0 or 1 from the top of your deck as though it was an instant. However, it does cost an additional 1 to play. With the new crank mechanic, this is a very powerful effect, and we'll be getting into the ins and outs of it soon. Next up is Symbiosis Shot, the weapon of choice here. But unlike most weapons that Dash plays, instead of using resources to place steam cannons, instead, whenever a mechologist item enters the arena under your control, as long as Symbiosis Shot has fewer than 6 steam cannons, you may place an additional one on it. This allows you to fire it multiple times in a turn, as long as you have the action points to pay for it. The goal here is obviously to play items off the top of your deck with Dash Database's effect, without using the action point and getting steam cannons on the weapon, and then using those action points to fire it multiple times. Now onto the equipment. First off, the headpiece, Ragmuffin's hat. My idea here is that once we've played our entire hand out, except for one card which will likely be an item, we can use Ragmuffin's hat to draw the top card of our deck and place that item on the top. This will then allow us to pitch that card we drew, to play the item off the top, cranking it, gaining the action point, and then firing our Symbiosis Shot at additional time. Braces of Belief is the arm piece of choice. Because we have perfect knowledge of our deck, I thought it'd be best to play something like Braces of Belief to give our attacks a crucial boost when we know there's a red on top, hitting those breakpoints and pushing damage through, especially with some of the item choices we've got later on in the deck. For chest, we've gone for Blossom of Spring. Sometimes items just cost that one extra resource you do not want to use, and again, because we have perfect knowledge, we can always crack it at the start of the turn and use it later on. Finally, we've got the Achilles Accelerator. These are a staple piece of equipment for mechologists, because it provides AB1 as well as giving you the choice to destroy it for an additional action point. This will be really useful when it comes to using Symbiosis Shot's counters. We're also packing 2 extra pieces of Arcane Barrier. Mechs can do quite a lot with no resources, so sometimes we are able to pitch our blues towards arcane damage. It will be especially useful against wizards like Kano and runeblades like Vincent and Briar. Even Dash's new version still cares about her old tricks, the boost cards. We're playing 0 to 60 because it is the best rate on a boost card, 0 for 4 with Go Again. We're also playing the Rainbow of T-Bones because equipment is key in Blitz, and so we want to make sure our opponents don't get to choose when to use it, we force them to use it. Even though we've got perfect knowledge, it never hurts to manipulate that top card, so we're playing some key 0 and 1 cost boosts that allow us to opt 1 on hit, such as Data Link and Die Through Data. We're also playing Expedite, which when it hits, we may put an item of cost 0 or 1 from our hand into the arena. Sometimes you will draw the items, and it's useful to place them into the arena to crank and get extra action points to then shoot with Symbiosis Shot. Rounding out some of our higher cost cards, we have Lay Waste, which is a nice finisher to a combat chain which punishes people for holding their equipment as it can't be defended by it. Zipper Hit is another staple of the Mecha class as it's 1 for 5 with Go Again. We're also playing Underloop, a new card from Bright Lights. It's effectively Overloop but costs 1, but sometimes you'll come against defensive decks that really want to fatigue you out, so sometimes hitting those breakpoints and putting cards to the bottom of the deck will help you boost longer into the game. Speaking of Overloop, we're also playing that. 2 for 5 isn't at a great rate, however that on-hit effect really will push the opponent to block it. Another new card from Bright Lights, Soup Up. It costs 0 and comes in for 4, and if an item has been destroyed this turn, it gains Go Again. And of course, we're playing Mech, so we've got to have a couple big finishes like Payload, which gains Dominate as long as we've boosted on this combat chain, which you will struggle not to. Moving on to our gadgets and gizmos, we've got our Rainbow of Boom Grenades, which is a staple to Dash database decks. This will be our introduction to the keyword crank. As this card enters the arena, you may remove a steam counter and gain an action point. In combination with Dash database's effect, this allows us to gain multiple action points in a turn, which will then be used to shoot Symbiosis Shot. We're also choosing to play the Red Hadron Collider. This comes in with 4 steam counters. However, when you boost an attack, you may destroy it, and if you do, the attack gains X, where X is the number of steam counters on it when destroyed. Penetration script, which reads, your Mechanologist attack action cards gain +1. This really helps some of our attacks just push extra damage and really pressure the opponent to give us their cards instead of throwing them at our face. Next we have Polarity Reversal script, which gives action cards -1 while defending our Mechanologist attack action cards. Last but not least is Convection Amplifier, all the way back from Arcane Rising. It comes in with 2 steam counters on it and has the action to remove a steam counter from it, and the next attack action card we play this turn gains Dominate. This is really good for ending out those games. It wouldn't be one of my deck lists if I wasn't deciding for niche scenarios. Red Back Protocol, Prismatic Lens, and Scrap Harvester provide us an infinite loop that allows us to come in for 6 every turn. It works by having the backup Protocol Red in our discard pile, with Prismatic Lens on the board. We play Scrap Harvester from hand, pitching free and scrapping Back Protocol from our discard pile, which allows us to put a steam counter on Prismatic Lens. So here we put backup Protocol back on top, and then Dash's effect allows us to play it from top, which then allows us next turn to pitch 2 into it, grab the Scrap Harvester back, and repeat the loop. In total, we have 51 cards, 9 of which being rare, and 1 even being a Majestic. This comes in at a grand total of £4.29. I did it!
You did do it, Chris, but it took you 6.5 minutes. So you failed the time challenge, but you came in on budget. The list looks great, and we'll be featuring this deck in some gameplay on the channel soon, so subscribe for that. If you want to hear more from Chris on all things Flesh and Blood, then there'll be a Chalk and Talk episode coming to the channel soon. But that about wraps it up for this series of £5 Bright Lights budget decks. As always, a link to the list is in the description, alongside links to the other decks in the series. We hope you enjoyed this content. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.